Hey guys, and welcome back to Psychic Celluloid Signals. Today I'm doing the Horror Man slasher tag. I was tagged by WolverBean, and I'd like to first just thank both those guys. Thank you, Dylan, for including me in this. I looked at these questions, and it's really interesting. I kind of discovered that I still have a lot to discover in the slasher subgenre, so it was kind of cool to kind of reevaluate what I have seen and how I feel about those films, what I think is good, what I think is bad, all that. And thank you, Horror Man, for making an excellent list. I'm new to the Horror Man's channel, which is really exciting. And WolverBean is a longtime friend of the channel, and he makes fantastic content. So I'm going to leave a link to both of them down below. Check them out because I'm sure you will not be disappointed. And to kick this off, we'll start off with the first question, which is, what is your favorite standalone slasher film? And I have two answers for this. Not so much because I'm being one of those guys, like I like to do a lot and answer one thing with 100 answers, but because I'm not really sure if one of these would be considered a slasher. So anyway, that film is Sangre, and it's kind of a art house horror, really surreal, trippy mindfuck film from Alejandro Jodorowsky, known for his really trippy mindfuck movies like The Holy Mountain and El Topo, among others. And it's just an incredible film. It does what El Topo did for Western films to the horror genre. It's just a really weird, hallucinatory kind of street performer involving just psychoanalytic, crazy trip into hell is my description of it. It's hard to really describe any of Jodorowsky's films and do it justice because they're kind of the type of films that explore feelings and topics that can't be expressed with words. So I would really recommend watching this film if you're a horror fan, which I'm sure you are if you're checking this video out. And if you're interested in checking out things that are kind of off the beaten path. And this film is certainly that. So check it out and decide for yourself. Is this a slasher film? It certainly has elements, but I don't know if I would say it is or not. But the other one that I'm sure I would is Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. This is a fantastic film. From the setting I love in the mental institution to the characters. We get really involved with many characters, which is a hard feat, I think, for films. So many films I watch, and they'll have less characters than Dream Warriors does, but they do less character development than Dream Warriors does, which makes you care less about the characters. And so when they do get offed, you don't give a crap. So it's really an intelligently made film, and the acting is superb. The makeup, the music, including a couple of tunes by the hard rock, I think, metal kind of band, hair metal band, Dokken, and including the theme for the film, which is an excellent theme, one of my favorite of any film. And yeah, it explores a lot more what Freddy can do with his whole ability to be in people's dreams, and it also explores something that doesn't really get looked at all in the entire genre as well as it does in this film, is the fact that the people inside of the dreams can kind of interact with the dream world as well and fight back. And it was really cool to see that be explored. And it of course, as the franchise progresses, they continue to be able to do this sort of stuff to one degree or another, but it's not really done as well ever again as it was in Dream Warriors. So I highly recommend both films. Number 2 is, what is your favorite slasher mask or look? And other than Freddy, who has an excellent look, I would definitely say the Miner from My Bloody Valentine. And here I'm referring to the original film, not the remake, just because I haven't seen the remake. But I have heard great things, so I'm sure I will check it out at some point. But anyway, the Miner has a look that is really interesting to me because it's something that's very real, something you could really see in this world. You can see someone wearing a miner's outfit with a miner kind of ventilation mask. So that part is really rooted in reality, but the weird thing is it gives you almost this uncanny valley vibe that makes the miner feel almost inhuman, which makes you feel really unsettled. It's like the same kind of thing that happens when you see clowns, as they look basically human, but a little bit not, so it's a little unnerving. And something about the miner mask is just exceptionally unnerving. Maybe it's because it almost makes you feel it's made for working in kind of dangerous environments to some extent. Certainly, like all the kind of apparatus for breathing and what have you in the mask are, of course, for working in hazardous environments. So I think that also kind of subconsciously elicits a danger feeling, because not only does this thing look sort of human, but you can't tell who he is, so you get that sort of that fear vibe going on, but you also see it and you're like, okay, so this guy's dressed down in kind of protective gear, so it kind of subconsciously raises those fears as well. And maybe that's why I personally like this mask better than, say, the Jason hockey mask, because although that one has a similar effect that it makes you feel sort of separated from the humanity a little bit, it doesn't elicit that same kind of subconscious, I think, fear. I might just be talking bullshit right now, but I think maybe that might be it for me, because when I think of hockey, I think of going and watching hockey games. Not as much fear there, because I don't play it. I think I would be afraid if I was in the ring, but that's not how I see it. So maybe that's what it does for me. But at any rate, I really love that look, and I feel like it's very simplistic but very well done. So we'll talk about my number 3 now, or the number 3 question. Favorite slasher movie kill. And there's so many. And this was one of the ones that I was like, there were a bunch that I could pick that I felt would be a little bit too overused, as far as if you ask someone this question. But there are also some films, for instance, that just do things so well. But one film that I think probably gets mentioned a fair amount in this category that has a kill that I don't hear mentioned as much when asked this question is the syringe fingers scene in Dream Warriors. Now, Dream Warriors has some fantastic kills, fantastic scenes, and as I mentioned, I love Dream Warriors, but I don't hear people talk about this as much. I thought it was very inventive of the writers to have Freddy's fingers change into the syringes to finally come to the demise of the girl who had suffered from addictions. It just works really well because it shows you that Freddy can see people's like deepest, darkest fears, and then he can manifest them kind of in the same way that the kids are manifesting some of these like powers of theirs. So I thought that was really well done, and it looked kind of creepy and really cool that they like did that sort of alteration to his pre-existing weapon, if you will. So that scene, that kill was fantastic in my opinion. So anyway, we'll go on to number 4, which is favorite slasher film setting. Now for this, I don't have any like one setting, like one area, but generally I like to see films, slashers, but like a lot of other films, in something that feels slightly detached from reality. Get a little surreal vibe or a little uneasy, creepy, off of the beaten path setting. So I guess I won't elaborate too much and leave that as you will, because I guess that's how I go into films. Like I don't have a specific setting I'm looking for, but that's not to say also that I don't like films that are like very rooted in a realistic setting and have realistic plot line and all that sort of stuff, because there are definitely examples of films that are like that are just superb, and I don't want to kind of say that I don't like that, but rather I'd just say that when I go and watch a film, having seen like so many films, I like to see something that's a little different. It's a little the people making the films used their creative license when they made it. So yeah, that was a hard one for me to answer because I'm not 100% sure what exactly setting I think would be best. Anyhow, we'll go on to my number 5, which is favorite final girl in a slasher movie, and I believe this was Dylan's as well, and that is Patricia Arquette's character Kristen in Dream Warriors. Yes, I'm bringing Dream Warriors up again because it's one of my favorites. So yeah, and I thought she was fantastic, and I don't know, I just enjoyed her screen presence and acting and her abilities and all that, and yeah, just lumped into the fact that it's in one of my all-time favorite slasher films. So yeah, hard to beat that. And number 6 is what is, in my opinion, the most overrated horror film, or slasher film rather. And I've got a couple answers for that. I would say that Halloween Part 2, and I can hear the screaming coming from people's computer screens weeks from now when they see this, or whenever they see this. But I absolutely adore Halloween, the original film. It's just perfect. There's nothing extra. There's nothing unneeded. Halloween 2 to me has just always felt like kind of like it's almost like the outtakes of Halloween. Like everything as if they had shot like 5 hours of this major epic of Halloween and it was all one big thing, because of course it kind of plays out that way because it starts off like exactly where Halloween leaves off, more or less. So it's like they decided, let's just stop here and get rid of all the rest of this. And then when they came along to making another film, they were like, oh, let's just use the rest of that. That's what it feels like to me. It's just the rest of that, like all the stuff that doesn't really matter to me. What interests me is the first film, and I don't know, the second one just felt unnecessary. It's hard to describe, but it didn't do anything terribly new that I felt was needed for the enjoyment of Michael Myers and the Halloween franchise. So yeah, and then to even continue this, and I honestly feel like I'll get more confusion or disagreement with this, but Halloween Part 3, I am a very weird position with Halloween Part 3, because I know a lot of people don't like it because it doesn't have Michael Myers, blah blah blah. And I know the original concept for Halloween was to have, it was almost like gonna be like a series that was like all put together, like a huge film anthology, all exploring like different things happening on Halloween night, all these different creepy things. And that's what they kind of went with Halloween 3. They explored like this different route, or different route, like a different occurrence happening on Halloween. And it's been a while since I've watched this, so yeah, you can hate even more because I haven't done as much research as I could have for this. But from recollection, I know that I thought the concept was really good. I thought the concept of having like each new Halloween film be like a different occurrence on Halloween night that's like creepy or supernatural or horrifying or whatever. I love that idea. I wish Halloween 2 was just like an awesome film that explored something outside of Michael Myers, and then that they just kept doing that with the franchise. I can't say I'm really like among the people who are like super stoked about say like the new Halloween film or whatever, but I definitely will check it out. I am very interested. I'm just not I like seeing something different, you know. That's just me. You are entitled to, and maybe even more correct with your differing opinion. I don't know. But yeah, anyway, I liked the concept of Halloween 3. It's very interesting, but when I've watched it a couple times, and I always just feel really bored for long chunks of the film. And I don't know if it was like a writing thing that I just don't jive with, how it was like written, or how it's like edited or acted, or it has to do with the directing. I don't know. But I just don't find it very interesting to watch. I feel like hearing people like describe the film is more interesting than the film itself. But that's just me. So let's go away from this question as fast as we can and go into what is, in my opinion, the most underrated slasher film, and I have two, and I'm not sure if either of these are slasher films. The first one is Sangre, which I mentioned earlier. That one, even among Jodorowsky's work, I don't hear it mentioned as much, but I think it's a film that's up there with The Holy Mountain, El Topo, Fondo Ulysses, etc., Dance of Reality, Endless Poetry. Some of his greatest stuff, it's up there with it. And I don't hear it mentioned quite as much, so I'd say it's underrated. I mean, especially like just in general, I don't hear it mentioned all that much, but even among discussions of Jodorowsky, I don't hear it mentioned as much, which is a shame because it's an amazing film. But I think also Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, which I just got done watching the other day, the most recent release of it on Blu-ray, the 30th anniversary, and it looks really awesome. So I'd recommend that. I recommend the film as well. I don't know if it's a slasher, because I don't know. It has a lot to do with like the tone of the film and the very realism vibe that the film has. Like, it feels like a portrait of a serial killer, as the name suggests. And I feel like in a lot of slashers, you see a lot of supernatural elements. You see a lot of I don't know. I don't think. I wouldn't say like I don't think they glorify violence. They just make it interesting and different. Whereas Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, it's interesting in that it feels very real. Like, this is like almost feels documentary. Like, if it wasn't filmed like by a crew, it would feel very like it's like we're watching an actual serial killer and his day-to-day life. It's crazy. So I don't know if it's a slasher, but he definitely does go to town with quite a few people. So if you're interested, I highly recommend both films. Both of them, I guess, disclaimer, they are both like pretty intense films in their own unique ways. So take that a little warning with a grain of salt, I guess. Go into it expecting, well, not expecting, but knowing you might be shocked. And it's not, they're, neither of them are for those with weak stomachs. So that's all I can say for that. And I'll move on to the last question, which is favorite gratuitous scene in a slasher movie. And I picked one, as quite a few that probably aren't seen as gratuitous nowadays, but back then, this film was just so, like, blew people's brains, as far as, like, moments where they thought they were gratuitous. So, this movie is Psycho. And, of course, the best scene to mention is the shower scene. Nowadays, we can watch that and be like, it's an awesome scene, but it's not like what we might call gratuitous, depending on who you ask. But at the time, it was like so controversial among many people. I believe the MPAA, or whomever analogous was operating at the time. I'm not quite sure chronologically, but at any rate, I'm sure it inflamed them. I'm kind of surprised that it got to be released to the public, but it's wonderful that it did, because it's a fantastic film. I know also, I looked online a little bit about this film and its controversies, and another controversy was seeing a toilet be flushed. Yes, that's incredibly controversial in 1960 because no one had done that on television or in the films or anything like that. That was really like widely released at any rate. I guess it was just considered gross. Like, yeah, even though there's nothing in it other than like a ripped up like paper. It doesn't have any like nobody went to the bathroom and then flush the toilet. It's just straight up flushing a toilet. But that alone was considered like just you don't put that in a movie. It's not decent. At least it wasn't done. So there's a lot to Psycho that I think paved the way for what we can see in films now that's gratuitous, quote unquote. And I feel like, yeah, Psycho really deserves a mention in this category because even nowadays when we watch it and it might not feel really controversial, it did a lot to open doors to what we can have now, which is awesome because free speech is great. I am a great proponent of it. And that wraps up this list, and I had a lot of fun doing it. So thank you again to TheHORRORMan and Dylan Bean. Again, they'll be linked below, and as far as who I'm going to tag, I haven't decided yet, so we are going to cut the video here, and I'm going to re-record a little bit just so that I can tag some people. So here are people I tagged. Alright guys, so I will be tagging Unchained with the Captain, Unbox Odyssey, and also Nate and Glenn from my channel. I haven't told you guys that I've tagged you yet, so definitely everyone who I've tagged, don't feel like you have to make a video, but if you do, I'll be really excited to watch it. And as always, keep it psychic and keep it real.